I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. So here's what I break down when we start talking GOAT talk, because one of the things that you kind of have to remove is sales. Because when you talk about GOAT talk, right? Different eras had different distribution and they had different ways to get music to fans, right? So the numbers are going to be a little bit different. You can add that to your equation, but there are some other things you have to keep in mind. And you can't really quantify them because they're not tangible, concrete things that you can quantify. It's all subjective.
Very quickly.
What's up?
Just very quickly. Anybody that you put in a GOAT situation, regardless, has an album that has went gold in a week.
And we could take a look at that and we could talk about that. You could still take the accolades and achievements or whatever, but I'm saying that can't be solely what it's predicated on.
It's not.
What you want to take a look at is cultural impact. Okay? That's one of the things that you want to take a look at. How did this person...
You know what? You're right.
How did this person impact the culture, right? 2, critical reception of their art. Okay? This is why I had to kind of like eliminate sales, because hypothetically, Vanilla Ice sold a lot of records, right? But his cultural impact and critical reception are both negative. So that's kind of why I pull sales out of it. You know what I mean? It's one of the qualifying factors. 2, I think skills and lyrical ability. You know what I mean? The ability to tell a good story, the ability to draw the listener in, the ability to make a good song, and to MC very well, right? Those are the things that I look at. Now, if you want to add anything on top of that, you can, but I think those are the 3 things.
Let's go by the criteria you mentioned.
Yeah.
So the first thing that you mentioned
hold on, I'm not quite done just
yet.
Go ahead. So that's the criteria, right? Then you have to take a look at, you have to have them square off kind of like a boss fight, right? Like in video games, it's levels to this shit, right? Kendrick is the guy that's getting in there. So you kind of have to look at him and based off of those things. Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing that I completely forgot. Longevity is the final category that they need to have. Okay?
I agree.
Now, what you have to look at that point in time is you have to kind of weigh these guys out on a one-on-one situation. So you have to ask yourself, like you said, like we're just going to go all the way nuclear with it based on that. Has Kendrick had a larger cultural impact than Tupac?
No.
Okay. Has Kendrick had, let's say, better critical reception than Tupac?
No.
Has Kendrick had, let's say, displayed more longevity than Tupac in his work?
Not possible.
Okay.
He hasn't been out long enough.
Okay. Cultural impact, critical reception.
I need your answers to these questions, by the way, because you never said if you think he's where you place him at. So let's start over and you answer the questions as well. Has he had a bigger cultural impact than Tupac?
No,
or Eminem, whoever.
I'm sorry. And skill wise, do you think he's better than Tupac?
Yes.
Okay. So here's the thing: like he can be a part of that conversation. You know what I mean?
Because he got him in one category.
He's a part of the conversation, but when you stack the ranks up, like you know what I mean, like. Again, it's all subjective, but I'm more in alignment with where you are. You know what I mean? Okay. I don't think Kendrick is the greatest of all time. I think he's one of the greatest of all time.
I absolutely do. The wave he's having is definitely going to be remembered.
Right. It's going to be remembered, and I think that is the one thing that really Kendrick is missing right now, because he's, as it stands right now in this era, he does have the cultural impact among his class. He does have
niggas keep biting his album format. Like, stop making story albums. Like, please stop. Right. Oh my God.
Now somebody did that before him. I don't necessarily know who, but it is the
niggas have done that throughout the course of time. A nigga did a whole album with a bunch of skits like it was a story. But go ahead.
I feel like Scarface or somebody, but anyway, critical reception, he's got it. Skill, he's got it. Impact, he's got it. Longevity is the one thing he's missing. And I know it's really like people want to hurry up and put him there, But here's why Jay's in there. Reasonable.
Like legitimate, like not even, you can't even, I don't even think it's like opinions that the shit is classic that he do.
Yeah.
It's not even
But
opinion.
his
well, there goes me. I'm worshiping rappers now.
No, I mean, but
it's not even an opinion, and I'm giving an opinion.
No, I mean, but it's when you take a look and you break it down into those categories, like, yeah, like Jay has definitely paid his dues and we've seen him here long enough and we've got that trust in him that he's going to deliver us something solid. You know what I mean? Like, he impact the culture in ways that, like, is motherfucking Ellen, I got 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one. You know what I mean?
So
like,
when did the Black Album come out, man?
2004.
2004. Jay came in the game like 96.
Yeah.
So, and at that point, I think he had like 10 platinum albums or something like that. The most platinum albums out of any rapper. So that was like one of his little claims to fame or something like that.
Can we take a moment and acknowledge how fast I came up with that fact? 2004. I feel kind of like this shit.
Like, yeah, I know. I remember freshman year, like listening to like Encore and all that shit. But you know, yeah.
But I mean, you know, when that's what you have to look at. When you start looking at somebody being the greatest of all time, you have to remove them from their class and you have to really break down like, yo, okay, is Kendrick better than Big Pun? Is Kendrick better than KRS-One? Is Kendrick better than Rakim? Is Kendrick better than Jay-Z? Is Kendrick better than Eminem? Is Kendrick better than Biggie? Is Kendrick better than Pac? Is Kendrick better than
And you want to know
Nas?
the thing about it,
And
man, we had these conversations. You could even throw Wayne in there because niggas put him up
right,
there.
But that's the thing. Here's what makes it tough. It's all subjective.
It is.
It's all subjective.
It is. But the thing that I was going to say is, you know, people who have these conversations, like, you know, they don't. Some of these people don't even have a context because they don't listen to nothing before the year 2000.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, you know, don't get it twisted. Like, I listen to, like, you know, NWA and all that shit. So I'm like, you know, I'm a hip hop historian with it. So like the KRS-One and Rakim is one of my favorite rappers of all time. Mm-hmm. But I can't put Rakim in a discussion like this because of the way rap has evolved. His skill set and just the music that he did is too outdated for me to stack up against a Jay-Z or something like that.
But when we talk GOAT talk, that's why I said you kind of have to eliminate skills and go based off of those categories.
Exactly.
Because
skill-wise, Jay has got him beat by a long shot because the things Jay is doing wasn't even invented at that time. Nobody was doing that shit.
Yeah. So, I mean, that, like I said, you would have to eliminate sales and just be like, okay, what's the cultural impact these two had? What's the critical reception to their art that these two had? What is the skill level of these two?
Now, see, all the things that you mentioned, and
what's
even
the
if
longevity?
You go to, and that as well, like, you know, it's still certain niggas like how you mentioned Big Pun, how you mentioned Big, how you mentioned Pac. You know, you could even throw a LL Cool J in there. Like, he's not going to be the GOAT, but he's better than a lot of rappers now.
Yeah.
And he had a great run. He had over 10 years. He had like a 12, 15-year run before he fizzled out. So, you know, for you to be having these conversations and then you be like, like, you know, niggas will say like Wayne is the best rapper alive, but they don't like past Jay-Z. They don't listen to no Pac. They don't listen to no Big. They don't know nothing about none of that shit. They don't know nothing about the 90s. Like, it's like you can't even really give context, bro. Like, everything, your whole knowledge, like, if you gave like a greatest of all time, it wouldn't include like no, like 20, if you said 20 rappers, like, you wouldn't have nobody from the 90s in your shit.
And I think that's where the conflict.
And Scarface is better than a lot of motherfuckers who was rapping in the 2000s. And he was still rapping in the 2000s.
Yeah. And I think that's where the conflict in this conversation comes from. And that's where it becomes very difficult for a lot of people to have that conversation, because if me and you, we were born in late 80s, early 90s. And we grew up throughout a lot of shit. You know, we seen the Tribe Called Quest, and we seen them break up, and we seen the Wu-Tang Clan, and we seen Red and Method Man. So we seen a lot of this shit where, you know, people are calling them the greats today, but we didn't really see what was popping in the 80s. You know, Curtis Blow and fucking Big Daddy Kane
Yeah.
and you know, that's stuff that we just missed. So when you're having a conversation and somebody says Kendrick is the greatest of all time, you have to look at what era of hip hop did you grow up in. Oh,
True.
you're only comparing this to Nelly's run. You're only you know what I mean? Like you were born, you know, you were born when Right There was the hottest song on the radio. You were born when Country Grammar was the hottest song on the radio. So you're only comparing your limited knowledge of Kendrick being dope. It's really, you're looking at it from the surface level of this era, which you can't deny it. He's literally one of the best in this era. But when it comes back down to is he the GOAT, it does require you to go back and not only listen, but to research what propelled these people to such superstardom and GOAT status and GOAT conversations in the first place.
And let me talk about just going back and shit like that, because of course we didn't grow up in the 80s at all. So,
Right.
you know, I didn't get into rap until 99 for real.
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah, of course a nigga went back, but the whole thing about going back is, you know, you can, if you like know the skill set and everything, you could go back to the 80s, listen to Run DMC and I forget what the song is, man, because they Sucker
This Way.
MCs.
Yeah.
Sucker, nah, fuck that. That's whack. But let me not say it's whack because, you know, it's not my time. But Sucker MCs is like fucking dope as shit.
Mm-hmm.
Rakim, I Ain't No Joke is dope as shit. But then when you go to check out a Big L, like Big L was out like in the mid 90s.
Like like 98 type.
Yeah, well, that's when he came out with the album and he got killed and stuff like that around
Yeah.
like 2000, late night, whatever. Yeah. So, you know, around that time, that was cool. But in the mid 90s, if you go and listen to like his old tapes and stuff like that, that was the stuff he was doing at that time. And the skill level was completely different. And the skill level that he had in the mid 90s could still be applicable today. It's just the beats is old and like, you know, some of the flow, even in his flow is not bad for a modern day. Like you could still throw it, if you get an acapella, throw it over a modern beat. But then you got like the Jada Kisses and stuff. That's where the standard really is.
And to make my stance clear on this, just still same subject, but you know, while we're on the subject, like talking about GOATs, based on the criteria that I put out there, Drake could never be the greatest of all time. Skill set, he's going to lose to everybody each and every time because he has that asterisk next to if he's writing his own verses or not.
If he was actually writing his own shit, he wouldn't lose to a lot of people. But yeah, there you go. Just takes him out completely. Mm-hmm. So continue. What's the other ones? Cultural? He's a culture vulture.
I mean, yeah, you know, cultural impact, critical reception. That's why I had to kind of
let me go cultural impact. You know, he did give a wave to Toronto, and Toronto people are taking the sound that he molded out of 808s and Heartbreak, like, you know, and they're running with it as well. So he has that impact.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not even going to be mad at him for taking that from Kanye because everything comes from somewhere.
Yeah.
So you can't really hold that against him. But at the same time, you know, he has taken a lot of culture, like the whole Batman thing, or like all that, like just all the fake Jamaican talk and all, like he's taken from other cultures.
Critical reception. My assessment of his critical reception, I don't believe people think that he has a classic rap album or a classic hip hop album.
Everybody goes to, and I personally go to Take Care. Anything outside of that, you know, it's kind of a reach.
Okay.
You know, but I mean, you could say Nothing Was the Same, but outside of that, no.
Longevity.
Longevity. You know, it's the same thing as Kendrick. Like, we really not in a position to, like, you know, these niggas is pulling up on 10 years, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But we got to have some time to reflect on 10 years.
Yeah.
Before we get, like, you know, nobody was saying Eminem was the greatest rapper. Like, I'm not going to say, we wasn't having those conversations. It was ridiculous to compare Eminem to Tupac and Biggie at the time when 8 Mile was popping and Eminem show and Encore was out and shit like that. After he retired and things simmered down, it was like, okay.
But even then, last thing, and we'll go back to that. Last thing is skills, which we already talked about. Drake.
We talked about that.
But when it comes to the greatest rapper alive, one of the first people that I heard say that growing up was Lil Wayne. And I remember that summer that he said that. It was right after Jay-Z, quote unquote, retired after he did the Black album. And he
Jay-Z was the first person I heard say it.
Okay,
I think he said it on Encore actually.
But his he
said that on Dirt Off My Shoulders. That's what he said it on.
And then Wayne responded with, "I'm the greatest rapper alive since the greatest rapper retired." You know what I mean?